how can we be healthier? We're doing our weight loss group this month, and last month we tried the keto diet. I was able to decrease my craving and lose about 5 pounds or so. Got to that final limit, then I went off the keto diet, and I'm starting to come back, and I'm going to actually try to decrease my cravings with soup and maybe some smoothies too as well. So Steffi and her team has put together a remarkable presentation, so I'm really excited about this. Well, Steffi, tell us what we're going to do tonight. Go ahead.
I'm Steffi. I'm a fourth-year health science student at McMaster, and I'm joined by my team. Does everyone want to introduce themselves?
My name is Shannon. I'm in my third year of health sciences at McMaster.
I'm Helena. I'm in my second year of health sciences at McMaster.
Hi guys, my name's Alan. I'm also in my second year of health sciences.
My name is Dr. Greg Curnew, and I'm in my 30-something year at McMaster. They still haven't let me graduate, but I'll keep working at it.
I'm Chad St. Aidan. I'm in my first year as volunteer at Dr. Curnew's office.
And we go shopping, cooking. He's actually cooked forks over knives. He's actually got the. We actually completed a program on plant-based cooking thanks to Chad, and I'm looking forward to learning more about cooking and eating from everybody tonight. So this is fantastic. Did we miss anybody?
Just to finish it off, I guess. Hello, everyone. My name is Stuart. I am a fourth-year student in health sciences at McMaster.
So he makes sure that we're going to be on time today. So I'm going to try to be on time for a change.
Yes.
Good luck. There we go.
The topics that we're going to talk about today, we're going to start off with volumetrics and talk about energy density. Then we're going to be talking about soups and smoothies, looking at some studies and implementation tips, the Optifast Diet, inflammation and weight loss, looking at exercise and water intake. Then we're going to have a sample meal demonstration by Chad, and ending off with some food tracking apps and budgeting tips. So let's start off with volumetrics and energy density. Take a look at the old Canadian food guide. Here we can see the biggest category of foods recommended is grains. Now this has drastically changed over time. Flip to the next slide. This is a picture of the new Canadian food guide. And as you can see, the portions have drastically changed. Now grains take up a quarter of the plate and fruits and veggies take up half. Now one thing I wanted to highlight was the beverage of choice, water. Now I've put some common drinks that people may have with their meal and the calories. As you can see, by adding a glass of orange juice or a glass of wine, you're adding about 100 to 140 calories per glass. Now change that to coffee or hot chocolate or the Oreo milkshake from Burger King, which is almost half your recommended calories for the day, over half if you're following the recommendations for people with cardiovascular diseases by the American Heart Association. Now the reason I brought this up is to urge you to drink water as your drink of choice. More on that coming soon. But speaking of liquid calories, next slide please. Replacing 2 or 3 of your meals with soups or smoothies can help you lose weight and be healthier. Now we're going to be talking about volumetrics, energy density, and then showing you research that will prove that this is indeed an excellent strategy to lose weight and eat healthier. So what if you could eat a lot and still lose weight? Well, now I don't mean over your daily calorie consumption, but guess what, you can on the Volumetrics diet, which was created by Dr. Barbara Rolls. Unlike diets that are based on deprivation, the Volumetrics approach helps people find healthy foods that they can eat while still losing weight. Thus, this diet makes use of energy density, which are the calories packed into food. Since the goal of Volumetrics is to focus on feeling full, Dr. Rolls recommends high-fiber foods that provide satiety for minimal calories. Some energy-dense foods include soups, salad, produce, and lean meats. And it's generally recommended to stay away from energy-dense foods such as potato chips, croissants, granola bars, bacon, peanut butter, ranch dressing, and things like that. So if you take a look at the photo that we have on the slide, you can see that the same amount of calories are there in either some nuts and salted pretzels versus soup, salad, grapes, and a glass of water. So now think about what will fill you up for less calories. And in case you were wondering, the right is the correct answer.
So it's kind of interesting, Steffi. You, if you go back at one slide there, so I'm looking on your right. So I got that, chicken broths and tomato-based soups and avoid the cream and the tomatoes. But I was kind of surprised to see milk in there because I remember a glass of skim milk is about 90 calories and regular milk is twice that amount, 150 calories. So how did milk make there? How to make it there?
I think they mean skim milk.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So one of the things is that a glass of skim milk is 90 calories. So I mean, I think milk is a good food. Skim milk's a good food. But one of the things I've done is I've taken your advice and I've gone away from. I used to drink a lot of milk growing up. I was brought up and saying that milk was good for you. Now I'm saying that water is good for you. So I still have a little bit of milk, but I don't have that much, and it's just a little bit of skim milk there. But I love all that sort of things in there. And I remember reading about Barbara Rolls many years ago, and what she said makes a lot of sense. And so thank you for sharing that.
No problem. So now if we go to the next slide, we have our first study, which is looking at dietary energy density and body weight in adults and children. Many studies have shown the benefits of low energy dense diets. The systematic review Dietary Energy Density and Body Weight in Adults and Children reviewed all literature on dietary energy density and body weight published between the years of 1980 and 2011. Systematic reviews are especially good at drawing conclusions from currently available research, as they critically assess all available data on the topic of interest. This systematic review included all studies with a minimum of 10 subjects per group and healthy populations and those with elevated chronic disease risk. So now if you go to the next slide, the review found that low energy dense foods lead to decreased energy intake and increased satiety. This is because people tend to consume a consistent weight of food per day. So by eating less calorie-dense foods, one can eat the same weight of food and consume less calories. Consumption of energy-dense foods can result in passive overconsumption. This can be seen in the image that we have on the slide, as energy-dense foods like oil, meat, and cheese take up less space in the stomach, leading you to overconsume calories. Studies have also consistently shown that low energy density foods improve weight loss and maintenance, whereas diets with high energy dense foods increase body weight. So now that we've given you an introduction into volumetrics and energy density, here are some studies that cite the benefits of eating soups and smoothies. So this is a study that found that soup consumption is associated with a lower dietary energy density and a better diet quality. So for this study, they surveyed soup consumers in comparison with non-soup consumers for a period of 5 years. They used dietary recall, health-related questions, physical examinations, and laboratory tests conducted using a database called NAMES. And their main findings were that soup consumers had lower body weight, lower waist circumference, and lower total energy intake. Soup consumption was associated with lower dietary energy density and reduced intake of total fat and increased intake of protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. And the diet quality, as measured by the Healthy Eating Index 2005, was significantly better in soup consumers.
So for this study, it examined the effects of consuming different forms of low energy dense soup as a preload before meal intake and total energy intake at the meal. So they also ensured that the participants met the following criteria. So they had to be 18 to 45 years of age, not currently taking any medications that are known to affect appetite or food intake, non-smokers, regularly consume 3 meals a day, not dieting to gain or lose any weight, not athletes in training, not pregnant or breastfeeding, and free from food allergies and food restrictions. And 60 subjects went to the lab once a week for 5 weeks. On each test day, a standard breakfast of bagels and yogurt was consumed to ensure a consistent level of hunger before each lunch sessions. And lunch was scheduled at least 3 hours before breakfast. And at the beginning of each lunch meal, subjects were served one of 4 vegetable soups, preloads, or no preload at all. And subjects were required to consume the entire preload within a period of 12 minutes. And when no preload was served, subjects were asked to sit and read quietly for 12 minutes. And the test meal was served 15 minutes after the preload was served. And at each meal, the same test meal was served, and the subjects could eat or drink as much or as little as they wanted. So the main findings of the study were that consuming low energy dense soup as a preload led to significant reduction in test meal intake compared to consuming no soup as a preload. And at lunch, the preload reduced total energy intake by 20%. And they also found that consuming low energy dense soup in a variety of forms at the start of a meal can reduce subsequent food intake, which leads to significant reductions in total energy intake at the meal.
Tips for implementation into your diet. So if you want to implement soups and smoothies, you should follow our tips that we're going to suggest. So add a source of lean protein to your soup. Protein helps you control your appetite and thus your calorie intake, which results in weight loss. Lean sources of protein such as skinless chicken breast, lentils, and beans are low in fat and make a healthy addition to vegetable-based soups. Have soup with protein such as lentil soup to replace your evening meal. And in terms of smoothies, you should drink smoothies that are primarily based on fruits and vegetables as replacement meals. Vegetables and fruits are rich in fiber, which can help you control your hunger. They also contain vitamins and minerals. Fruit has natural sugars which improve the flavor of your smoothie. And an example is that you could blend some leafy green vegetables such as kale or spinach with frozen bananas and berries, and then add some skim milk if you want until the mixture is smooth and frothy.
So when you're implementing a liquid diet involving soups and smoothies, it's important to consider the ingredients that you're using and making sure that they'll help you with your diet rather than hinder you. So we've listed here some important ingredients to include in your meals for both soups and smoothies. So first of all, you want to make sure that when you're making your soups, you're basing them off of low sodium broths such as vegetable, chicken, or beef broth. High salt in soups can sometimes be a health concern, so you would want to make sure to use the low sodium versions of these broths. Green vegetables such as green beans, celery, and low carb vegetables such as cauliflower and leafy greens will also help you get important nutrients, as Steffi said, and contain fiber that can help keep your digestive system regular. With liquid diets, it is also important to make sure you're getting enough protein. So as Steffi mentioned, we recommend including puree-friendly protein such as lentils to your soups. Then for smoothies, fruits are really great to add to smoothies. Sometimes, however, they can be high in sugar, so we also recommend including leafy greens or other inventive options such as avocados to again help with nutrients and boost those smoothies. Kale and spinach are great to add to smoothies because they both have flavors that are easy to hide. And adding seeds such as chia seeds can help ensure that you're getting enough fiber from a smoothie. Using Greek yogurt or a plant-based milk or skim milk is a great base for smoothies and can provide additional protein and calcium. And I also wanted to recommend peanut butter powder. It's high in protein, it tastes great in smoothies, and it's much less calorically dense than actual peanut butter, so it's a great alternative. Now on to some foods that you might want to avoid putting in soups and smoothies. We really want to avoid cream bases for soups as they can be really high in calories, fat, and sodium. Instead, we want to try and base soups off of broth, as mentioned before. Also, sweet treats, even in liquid form, can still be very high in calories and sugar, so try to avoid using ice cream or sorbet as a smoothie base. Heavily processed food and high-fat dairy products are best avoided, and so are fruit juices and sodas. Even though fruit juice and sodas are liquid and it can be tempting to thin out smoothies with them, they can contribute a lot of calories and sugar to the smoothie, so it's best to use water or ice instead. Now moving on to the next slide, we can see a sample diet that I've created for the week. And you may notice that the meal plan is just for smoothies for breakfast and soups for dinner, and there isn't anything listed for lunch. That's because although liquid diets are great for weight loss, fully liquid diets are not meant to be long-term. So a commonly recommended method of implementing the soup and smoothie diet is to replace 1 or 2 meals per day. Liquid meals often do contain fewer calories than solid foods, so replacing, for example, 2 meals per day with liquid meals is a method that will allow you to still have 1 solid food meal and then to have 2 meals which are lower in calories. So we can see here for breakfast, the smoothies range from smoothies that contain Greek yogurt, banana, strawberries, and peanut butter. Lots of other fruit-based smoothies with pineapple, mango, banana, and chia seeds. And then we can also have more interesting smoothies that involve spinach, pear, grapes, avocado, and lime juice, as well as mixed berries, peanut butter, protein powder, banana, spinach, ginger, and avocado, and even ones that are based off of zucchini, pear, and kale. So you can get very inventive with your smoothies. For dinner, some soups that we recommend are lentil soup with kale and tomatoes, pureed butternut squash soup, chicken and ginger soup, vegetable soup with quinoa, cabbage and vegetable soup, mushroom and kidney bean soup, and broccoli and red lentil soup. So again, lots of different options so you can get inventive with that.
So now we're going to be talking a little bit about the Optifast, which is a low-calorie diet which is designed to produce rapid weight loss of around 1.5 to 2.5 kilograms per week. So what is the Optifast diet? Optifast is actually a medically formulated meal replacement product which comes in forms of milkshakes, soups, bars, etc. And it's meant to help people lose weight quickly before surgery to make it easier and reduce surgical risks. It's recommended for those with a BMI of over 30 and it lasts typically 26 to 52 weeks. It has been found to have an average weight loss of 30 pounds in 26 weeks and decreasing the waist circumference, blood pressure, blood glucose, and cholesterol.
Now, since the Optifast diet is a fairly new diet, there need to be some studies done in order to prove its effectiveness. And here comes the Opti study, which is actually kind of this year-long randomized controlled trial, and it was basically designed to evaluate the effectiveness of the Optifast weight loss program when it was compared to kind of the standard reduced energy food-based lifestyle intervention. Now, the study was done across healthcare sites in the U.S. I believe it was across 9 different healthcare sites, and the total number of people that were included in the study population ended up being 273. If you take a look on the right, you can see the inclusion criteria for the study. Participants had to be aged 18 to 70, they had to be non-smokers, and they had to have a BMI between 30 and 55. Now, as for how the study was structured, there was a structure of 2 different phases. An active phase where the main focus was weight loss, followed by a 26-week weight maintenance phase to ensure that the participants actually put off the pounds that they lost in the beginning. Now, for primary outcomes, the main one was percent change in body weight compared to baseline at weeks 26 and 52, which corresponded to the end of phase 1 and phase 2 respectively, and associated changes in body composition such as waist circumference. If we go into the next slide, we can just kind of look over the different treatment arms. So on the left side, on the Optifast group or the experimental group, they were obviously following the Optifast diet, which consisted of total meal replacement up to 16 weeks. The normal total meal replacement amounted to 800 calories a day based off their BMI, and obviously this was adjusted. So for people that did have higher BMIs, such as for people that did have BMIs of 45 to 50, they received 6 meal replacements a day, which amounted to 960 calories. And for those who had BMIs over 50, they received 1100 to 1200 calories. And just at the bottom, you can just kind of see the breakdown of the macros. The meal replacements contributed to 40% carbohydrates, 40% proteins, and 20% fats. And for the maintenance phase, they just went back onto conventional food and they encouraged still eating 1 to 2 meal replacements per day, so not as much as the active phase. On the right side, we have the food-based program. And what that was the participants basically followed a modified version of a diet plan provided by the Diabetes Prevention Program intervention. And what that was basically the participants were eating at a caloric deficit of 500 to 750 calories a day. And kind of the main macros that were controlled were 25 to 30% of those calories were to come from fats. And for maintenance, they also increased energy intake to achieve weight maintenance and no more weight loss. And one thing not on the slide is that both groups also had to do 150 to 180 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity exercise per week. And that exercise was also followed up by both group and individual behavioral counseling sessions. Now on the next slide, we can see some main results of the study. So as the people suggested, the Optifast diet did have significant benefits compared to the control diet. Just looking at the left graph, this graph looked at mean weight loss from baseline. So at week 26, the Optifast diet people lost on average 12.4% of their weight compared to the control, which only lost 6%. And that result was still sustained throughout week 52, even after the weight maintenance phase, as seen by the 10.5% weight loss versus the 5.5%. And if you look at the p-values, these are statistically significant results. If we actually look at the right graph, we can see kind of mean change in total fat mass. Now, as you can see, across all categories, whether that be losing 5% fat mass to 10% fat mass to 15% fat mass, there are considerably more people in the Optifast group that lost those respective weights compared to the food-based group, and those results were also statistically significant. And finally, we mentioned how a secondary outcome was associated changes in body composition such as waist circumference, and this is just something nice, kind of an add-on of the Optifast diet, was that people on the Optifast diet did experience greater weight reductions and greater reductions in waist circumference compared to the food-based group.
Okay, so now we'll be moving on to talk about inflammation and weight loss. So first of all, we'll be discussing how exercise can reduce inflammation. So firstly, what is inflammation? Well, it's the body's defense mechanism against foreign invaders. However, sometimes inflammation can be increased within the body without there being an external reason for it. Adipose or fat tissue actually secretes hormones that contribute to creating inflammation. So people who have excess fat tissue may have higher inflammation. Chronic inflammation does pose a major threat to health and longevity, and it's considered a major contributor to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and arthritis, among many other diseases. So one 2011 study which randomized obese adults to either aerobic and resistance exercise found that moderate intensity aerobic exercise does help modulate inflation. It also found that resistance exercise has a beneficial effect in regulating inflammation, but that flexibility exercise do not have that beneficial effect. Another study found that that benefit is across people of all ages and that it's independent of weight loss. So exercise will reduce inflammation even if you don't lose weight from the exercise.
Guys, can we go back one slide again? So, do you know how much inflammation was reduced and how they actually measured? Did they measure something called C-reactive protein, or did you get a sense of how much you get from weight loss, how much you get from exercise?
I didn't look into how much was achieved from weight loss, but I remember that in the study I was looking at for exercise reducing inflammation, they looked at several markers of inflammation, including, I think, the C-reactive protein and I think tumor necrotic factor alpha as well, and a bunch of others, and they found that across the board they were reduced, I believe.
So it's really important to understand this a little bit more, is that inflammation, as you point out, is a war going on at the time, and your body wants to fight infection. So right now we're trying to fight the COVID virus, for instance, or any infection, is your body mounts an inflammatory response, and we can measure these things. One is called C-reactive protein, and so exercise actually puts this helps. And one of the interesting things is why does so if you're overweight, your body's in a constant inflammatory process. Your body's always in a state of warfare and fighting, and so by losing weight, you actually decrease this inflammation, and by exercise, you decrease inflammation. There's actually data now to suggest that people who exercise have less lung infection, for instance. So I think this may be one of the keys at why people get cancers, heart disease, and overweight people are more predisposed to an infection right now. So this is actually really important. So thank you very much for sharing that. So to me, is that I want my immune system to work at optimal levels, and by that is I don't want it to work where it doesn't need to. Being overweight makes your body in a constant war. So lose weight, work at it, and exercise is where I'm learning about that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
So now I'll just introduce two studies mentioned on the Johns Hopkins website that observed water intake prior to meals and how that decreased food intake. So the first study I'll be talking about is a 2016 study that showed that people who drank 2 glasses of water immediately before a meal ate 22% less than those who drank any water prior to eating. And the second study was an 8-week study published in 2013, and 50 girls with excess weight drank about 2 cups of water half an hour before breakfast, lunch, and dinner without any dietary changes, and they saw weight loss and reductions in body mass index and body composition scores. So on the next slide, we'll just kind of explore why we might see this change in the studies. And the first potential reason is pointed out by a board-certified physician nutrition specialist who noted that thirst, which is triggered by mild dehydration, is often mistaken for hunger by the brain. And she says that decreasing appetite by drinking water is possible if the body is just low in water and not calories. And another reason is that drinking water can promote satiation because it passes through the system quickly, stretching the stomach, and this sends messages to the brain signaling fullness. And Elizabeth Huggins, a registered dietitian nutritionist at Hilton Head Health, said that about 2 cups should fill your stomach enough for your brain to register fullness. And the last reason could be that drinking water appears to stimulate thermogenesis or heat production in your body, and especially when it's chilled. So the body has to expend energy to warm the fluid to body temperature, and the more energy expended by your body, the faster your metabolism runs. And in a small study conducted in 2003, published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, drinking about 2 cups of 71 Fahrenheit water led to a 30% average increase in the metabolic rates.
I think this is actually really key, and it's one of those low-hanging fruit, is that having 2 cups of water before you eat your breakfast, lunch, or dinner will make you lose 5 pounds in randomized data. So that's a no-brainer, yet most of us don't. A lot of mistakes I make is I'm always drinking and eating, so what I'm trying to remember myself is have 2 glasses of water when you're hungry, and either your snack or before every meal. So and I think Steffi started off saying that the number 1 beverage should be water. You're saying that 2 glasses of that magic crystal white water or whatever, clear, makes you live longer, and it helps you lose weight. And I think, like you said, it fills the stomach with lots of good things. So this is a very easy thing for many of us to implement without having to think too hard. Go ahead, sorry.
So now we're going to have Chad talking about some of his sample recipes. So I'll give the floor to Chad.
Okay. So Well, we'll start off with the garlic ginger soup. Now, this particular soup, it's basically a staple in my diet. So I have it at least 5 days out of the week, whether it be in the mid-afternoon or before dinner. So, and the ingredients that I chose is it has a lot of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory ingredients to it. Next slide. So this garlic ginger soup ingredients, you put in ginger, carrot, celery, red onion. You can also use white onion, mushrooms, and spinach at the end. The spices I use are thyme, rosemary, poultry spice, celery seed, basil, vegetable spice, garlic, oregano, and optional ingredients. You can add in some oxo, chicken cubes, or you could do beef, whatever, and some sesame seed oil. The sesame seed oil will give a little bit more of an Asian taste to it, but those are optional because your chicken oxo cubes are very high sodium, and your sesame seed oil, which you don't really need, but if you like to try once in a while, you're adding in a fat, so which you want to sort of stay away from if you're working on inflammation and trying to rid inflammation from your body. Next slide, please. Thanks. The vegetable stock, this is what I generally use because I eat lots of vegetables and fruits and stuff. So all my vegetable cuttings, I save them in Tupperware containers. I put them in the refrigerator, so it doesn't matter if I'm peeling my carrot or ends of onions and celery, or taking my bell peppers apart and getting rid of the seeds and the inners. All this stuff, I save it in the Tupperware, so then I make big broths of natural vegetable broth. Next slide, please. So this is sort of a before and after picture. So in there I had cut up some leaves from some Brussels sprouts that I had in the week, some ends of mushrooms, and all kinds of different things in there. Pieces of the ends of asparagus is in that pot, and that. And then, so what I'm doing is I'm boiling it for a high boil for about 15 minutes, and then I turn it down to like a simmer boil for about 15 minutes, and then you just drain the vegetables that are in there, and you can discard them either to the garbage or compost, so then you're left with your clear broth. What I always do is I don't boil my spinach in my soups. I like to just put it in the bowl, and then I pour the hot soup on top of it, and then it essentially cooks it and makes it that soft texture to have. So that's my next slide. So the reason why I pick these ingredients, and I have it on a regular basis, is because I'm always focusing on eating anti-inflammatory foods. So ginger is a powerful anti-inflammatory food. Perhaps you've heard experts explain that inflammation is the root of most diseases. In addition, it works as an anti-inflammatory. Ginger tackles digestion, congestion, and rejection. So garlic is known to boost the function of the immune system, rich in vitamin C, B6, and manganese. It contains diallyl disulfide. You'd probably be able to say that better than I can, Dr. Curnew. It's an anti-inflammatory compound that limits the effects of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Gotta go to medical school for this. It contains antioxidants that protect against cell damage. The mushrooms are rich in anti-inflammatory as well, components, as well as being rich in nutrients. Celery reduces inflammation, and celery seeds have approximately 25 anti-inflammatory compounds that can offer protection against inflammation in the body. Onions are also one of the richest sources of flavonoids, antioxidants that mop up free radicals in your body's cells before they have a chance to cause some harm. One flavonoid found in onions, called quercetin, has been shown to inhibit inflammation. Also, I put in carrots, and it's an abundant amount of antioxidants and nutrients, keeping your body clean and healthy. Next slide, please. The herbs and spices I use, also they're very rich in different kinds of nutrients and micronutrients. So I put in thyme and rosemary and poultry spice. Once again, I got in the celery seed. I add that again to help as an anti-inflammatory. Garlic and the oregano and the sage. So the bottom line, herbs and spices are particularly good sources of antioxidants. Both are used to flavor the food, but research shows that they're full of healthy benefits. Herbs and spices fight inflammation and reduce damage to your body's cells. That's because each one of these phytochemicals, which are healthful plant chemicals, healthful plant chemicals, sorry. So I put the recipe off to the side there. So we could probably, anybody wanting it that's not seeing it on the slide well or anything, I guess we could post it in the chat box.
So that's wonderful. I noticed that you said that, like when you put the spinach in, is that, so what happens if you can you overcook the spinach and things of that nature? What happens there? Or
Well, I guess because it sort of falls apart if you're throwing it in a soup that's actually boiling up in that, it's going to start sort of disintegrating. And to me, then I'm overcooking. I don't like to overcook any of my vegetables because I just, in my time, I always learned if you overcook vegetables, you're taking nutrients away from it. So I'm always careful of that. Spinach is a big staple in my diet. I'm always eating spinach. Great in fiber, and that's another thing about this soup. It's all these ingredients. They've got fiber, they're filling, and they're very low calorie. So it's going back to the theme of this particular presentation. So after you've had the soup, guaranteed, like if you're going to have a small meal afterwards, you won't be wanting to eat a lot. So I think I saw in an earlier slide you're reducing your food intake probably by about 22% after you've had some liquid soup in that, and this is definitely like that. It's a powerhouse of nutrients, and you'll really definitely feel full enough to reduce any form of extra calories on your next course.
thank you.
I think someone else is taking over this.
So one of the things that I'll ask the group while we're getting ready is that I love having soup, but sometimes I want something sweet. And help me out there. Is that especially at nighttime? I've done so well. I've had all my soups, and I get my calories in. At nighttime, I get these cravings for something sweet. What can I do?
I can grab for a few dates because they're very sweet and really high in fiber, and they're actually filling. Or I'll go for an orange first, and just that sugar alone, rather than going for a chocolate bar. I think you'll get that same amount of the sugar boost and kill the craving by eating that way.
So one of the things that I started to do is that I went shopping with Chad, and I spent too many. So Chad goes in and out of the store. I was there for 2-3 hours. I could have stayed longer, but he made me leave after a while. And one of the things we saw was dark chocolate hummus, and so I still have some dark chocolate hummus. And I get apples, and I dip the apples into that, so it helps my sweet tooth. But I don't know about other people. I'm not sure Steffi and others or. Have some comments is that nighttime craving and things of that nature are a big problem for many people. I'm guilty of that myself on a regular basis. Any other suggestions for those people who get cravings at nighttime? So I like this idea about dates and having lots of soup, and I've had a lot of oatmeal at times and stuff like that, but still, I still struggle with this. Any suggestions, anybody?
Yeah, one thing I like to do is instead of eating, I just brush my teeth as soon as I'm done dinner. And if I want to eat something, I'll kind of say to myself, oh man, I have to brush my teeth again, and that's like a whole other process. So brushing my teeth just kind of forces me, by kind of my virtue of laziness, not to crave and eat any more snacks late night.
Nice. Any other suggestions from anybody?
That's a really great suggestion, Alan. I'm definitely a late night snacker like you, Dr. Curnew. I get those late night sugar cravings. I've recently discovered that some frozen fruit, like especially frozen mango, really does that for me. Because I find myself craving like ice cream late at night. So it's something cold and like kind of sweet, but definitely a lot lower calorie than a bowl of ice cream would be.
Nice.
Or you could even try having a smoothie with your dinner.
Yeah. That would be a good time to have a smoothie. Absolutely.
So now we have the section on food tracking apps. So we're going to have some of the students talking about some different apps.
Yeah, so first a bit about why we should self-monitor what we eat by writing it down or putting it in an app. Studies have shown that a combination of high frequency and high consistency self-monitoring of diet improves long-term success in weight management. So it's sort of a way to keep you accountable and keep you on track for your goals. When you see it on a piece of paper or in front of you on an app, it makes you more likely to commit. And a systematic review found that self-monitoring is consistently associated with weight loss. So they looked over a bunch of studies that have studied how self-monitoring can play into weight loss, and it was strongly associated with each other. And then finally, a study also found that after 6 months of tracking, those who used an app to track what they ate actually had an 80% adherence rate, while those with a paper diary had 55%. So it's, I guess, the way people design apps, it's a more visual way to lay everything out. Now they have bar graphs and charts, pie charts to help you see what you're eating more, and it keeps them more accountable. So now we'll go into some more of the apps that we found currently that help you do that.
Yeah, so if you've been tuning into other webinars, you're probably very familiar with MyFitnessPal. It's essentially an all-in-one app that not only tracks calories, but it can also provide sample recipes. There's this really nice community feature where you can connect with locals, or connect with online people, or even connect with their buddies to kind of see each other's progress. There's a section for workouts where you can track in how many steps you've taken and deduct the calories from your total caloric intake for the day. And on the right picture, there's even a neat little feature where you can just use a camera app, scan the barcode, in this case it's a granola bar it seems like, and it can automatically populate the app with data such as the calories and kind of the macros. Now on the next app, it's very similar to MyFitnessPal, but it's called MyPlate Calorie Tracker. Very similar, both have community features, both feature workouts, both can track various macronutrients. However, one thing I found about this app is that this MyPlate Calorie Tracker actually has compatibility with the Apple Watch and the Health app. So if you're very into that tech sphere and you really want to make sure that your data is being synced across platforms, MyPlate Calorie Tracker is the way to go. I also noticed that MyPlate Calorie Tracker is a little bit more visual, a little bit more colorful, less text heavy for those who do prefer it.
What I found on the App Store was Fat Secret. So this one, it's a lot. They give you visual bar graphs for where your calories are going, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so you can see where you tend to eat more. And it also helps you. It gives you like the breakdown of the nutrients. And what's interesting about this one is you can actually take photos of your food itself. So it's not even scanning a bar graph, a barcode, but it's like taking a picture of an apple, and then it'll scan it and it'll tell you, oh, this is an apple and these are the calories in an apple. I did try the feature out and it works. I scanned a chocolate chip cookie, not the best thing to scan, but it did tell me I was eating a chocolate chip cookie. So yeah, it's a nice feature to have. And then the next one I found was something called LifeSum, and this one is
when you scan the chocolate chip, do you just scan like a barcode, or do you scan like the actual cookie?
A cookie. So I just raised my cookie up in the air and I like kind of took a picture of it, and it told me it was a chocolate chip cookie.
Wow.
So it was pretty interesting how they could just do that. But yeah. And then this app is called LifeSum. And it was interesting in the way that they kind of gave you a 40 question quiz to start off, and I think they ask you like how frequent you eat certain foods, like green vegetables, colorful vegetables, fruits, rice, things like that. And I think they compare it to like the food guide. And then at the end of the questionnaire, they give you kind of a health score, so how healthy you seem to be eating and exercising. And then with that, they'll adapt. They'll give you recipe suggestions to help become healthier, or they'll adapt the things that they do and suggest for you through the app to improve your life score. And then you can keep tracking your life score through your calories and stuff like that. And so that's an interesting function of this app.
All right, so now we do recognize that we talked about a lot of different lifestyle and food choices that you can implement into your lifestyle today. And we do understand that these choices may require some factors such as namely time, energy, and money, which could be potential barriers that prevent you from fully committing to a new healthy lifestyle. And we just want to take some time to just kind of go over some tips on how you can eat on a budget so you can slim down while your wallet stays nice and fat. So before we actually figure out what are some tips to what are some tips to kind of reduce your spending, we got to answer the question, is healthy eating actually more expensive? Now, the Harvard School of Public Health actually conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis back in 2013, so it's a little outdated, that tried to look at this question, which they titled, "Do healthier foods and diet patterns cost more than less healthy options? A systematic review and a meta-analysis." And in this systematic review, they included 27 studies from 10 different high-income countries, and of which 14 studies were from the US and 2 were from Canada, and there are some others from Japan and Europe. And in these studies, they all included the mean retail price of food related to certain indications of healthfulness, which the researchers recorded, and they were then allowed to have several points of comparison amongst different foods across different countries with different prices. Now, they evaluated the differences in prices per serving and per 200 calories for particular types of food, and the prices per day and per 2,000 calories. And what the researchers found were that healthier diet patterns, for example, diets that were rich in fruit, vegetables, fish, and nuts, actually cost significantly more than unhealthier diets, which are basically diets that were rich in processed foods, meats, and refined grains. And how expensive exactly? Well, they found that on an average, a day's worth of the most healthy diet patterns cost around about $1.50 more per day than the least healthy ones. And while this doesn't really sound a lot, over an entire year, that can sum up to an extra $550 per year. However, we do want to say that this is not necessarily a major disadvantage of eating healthy, as the study actually rationalized that a healthy diet over a long term could actually reduce health risk factors and subsequent diet-related chronic diseases, and therefore in the future also reduce healthcare costs, such as medications, that may potentially equate to even greater financial burden. And nonetheless, we do recognize that during these tough times, finances may be a very important contributing factor to your diet choices. So in the next following slides, we're still going to give you guys some tips on how to save some money.
So it's kind of interesting because it's the same thing as if you have a cup of coffee a day. That's maybe $1.50. It's pretty powerful. And so thanks for sharing that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so now I'll just be going over some strategies on how to cook for a budget. And the first one is to prepare a grocery list and allocate a budget ahead of time. And this basically comes down to planning. A grocery list not only increases your organization, but also saves money. But how do we make a grocery list? We got to figure out what to eat. And how do we figure out what to eat? Well, we have to make a meal plan, which, like the name suggests, we got to plan what you'll eat for the entire week. And one other concept related to meal plan is meal prepping. This is something that not only I have done, but I've seen a lot of my classmates, a lot of other people in university that also do, is that they essentially make food in bulk. Usually it's sometime on the weekend when we all have time, and then they kind of portion it out throughout the week so that each meal is planned out, And this not only saves time and effort, but it can also save money, as you can buy in bulk. And just on the right, okay, you can't see the photo, but usually you can see different food containers with preset portions containing kind of grains, your veggies, and your protein for each meal. Now on the next slide, continuing on in some strategies, another way to save money is to base meals around in-season and on-sale items. So with winter coming up per se, this is where you see a lot of cabbage, squash, potato, carrots start to come into season, and this really lends well into what Chad mentioned by making a lot of stews, a lot of soups, as those fit well within that type of recipe. Another thing I like to do is buy whole. While it is more expensive, the per quantity or the per unit price is actually cheaper. So this means kind of going to bulk stores, so like Costco per se. And one big thing that people worry about buying bulk is they're afraid that the food might go bad. But you can always freeze the food. So I even do this with whenever I buy whole wheat bread. Obviously, I'm not going to finish three loaves in a week, so I'll usually freeze some pieces of bread into the freezer, and I'll just pop them in the microwave, defrost them whenever I need it. And you can also do this with fruits and berries, as you're not going to lose the nutritional and vitamin value when you freeze them. Now, I wanted to go a little bit more in depth on what exactly makes a good grocery list. The first point was something we kind of all talked about. We're going to base our grocery list on a meal plan, and we're going to divide it into bulk and weekly purchases. So on the right, we can see a sample grocery list. Again, this is based off Chad's recipe. So on the top, we have a bulk grocery list, which means that these are the foods that you can buy. Okay, sorry, the photo didn't update, but that's fine. So let's just say you wanted to buy something, you want to make like this nice little chili recipe. So you'd buy quinoa, lentils, sweet potatoes in bulk, and you can always store them, freeze them. And then for the fresher produce, those are kind of the foods that you're going to be using week to week that can't really sit too long. So things such as bananas, oranges, bell peppers, and those would be the ones you'll be replenishing week to week. The second point is something that Dr. Curnew touched upon on how he and Chad both went to the supermarket, but he was planning to spend around 2 hours there. So this is an interesting statistic. This is published by CNN report, so take it for what you will. But for every minute spent in the grocery store, the average American spends roughly 50 cents to $1 extra. Now, one interesting thing about the design of supermarkets is that usually the perimeter of the grocery store is where the fresh produce, the meats, the dairies, the major food groups are, and the inner aisles usually contain kind of the processed foods, the snacks, and those are kind of the main time wasters, and those are usually where people get caught up most in a supermarket. And this kind of, the last point just really speaks to how a grocery list will help you. Grocery lists basically ensure you buy what you need and spend less time getting it. On the right, if you look at the right grocery list, if you just go from top to bottom and go from place to place in the supermarket, once you're done, and you won't have any other reason to shop around for other potential sweets.
So what was kind of funny is that I brought, I thought it was more than enough money to the supermarket, and I had to borrow some money off of Chad afterwards. So you're right.
Yeah, you really don't want to be asking the person behind you in line for an extra $1 or $2 for your chocolate bar. But anyways, going on. The last thing I really want to talk about was this aspect of price matching. So what that is that there's some stores that actually participate in price matching, which means that they're gonna they'll adjust the price or sell you an item for a same or sometimes even lesser price than their competitors. This is a win-win for everyone, right? As the supermarket gets your business while you also save a buck or two. And just listed on the slide are some participating stores in Canada. So Freshco, Giant Tiger, No Frills, Walmart. But the main thing to notice is that each store has their own policy, which you should keep in mind when attempting the price match. So please just read it up ahead. You can usually find it on their website. You can call in. You can talk to a cashier there. But kind of usually, most times you are going to have to bring a proof of purchase. That can be either a past receipt or it can be a current flyer or ad. And all you have to do is you just have to show them a photo or bring the actual flyer from the competitor, show it to the cashier, and as long as the items are fairly the same, they can match the price. Now, in the past, if you're going to the next slide, in the past people would usually do this with flyers, but now with technology, we have flyer apps. So one very big one that's quite popular is Flip. So Flip's basically like this mobile app that allows you to access weekly digital flyers and price match them at home before going onto your grocery trip. So this goes back to the idea of planning at home, thinking about what's your plan of attack at the supermarket, so that you don't have to waste time at the actual supermarket. And Flip is really good where you can also search for deals, online coupons. It's kind of like Red Flag deals, but in a more modern version. And there's numerous participating stores, right? It's not only limited to supermarkets. I've also seen stores such as Metro, Walmart, Canadian Tire even. So there's kind of a wide variety of selection. And if you're not comfortable with mobile applications, there's also a website, flip.com, which has this exact same functionality.
Okay, now just to summarize, if we move on to the next slide. Today we've introduced the idea of calorically dense foods and how eating foods which are less calorically dense, such as liquid meals, can allow somebody to consume fewer calories but still feel full. We talked about how implementation of the soup and smoothie diet should emphasize healthy calories such as fruit, vegetable, and lean protein. And we also talked about the Optifast diet, which was a liquid diet proven to promote weight loss. We talked about how exercise can reduce inflammation in the body and how drinking 2 cups of water before a meal can help lose weight. And we finished up with some food tracking apps and flyer apps, which may be helpful in starting a new diet. So I hope everyone enjoyed, and thank you for listening to the presentation.
I think that was fantastic. I'm sold. So I really like this idea that trying something different, and this is actually refreshing right now. So I think Steffi pointed out that if you're having a can of Coke that's 110 to 150 calories, at one time I remember one of the restaurants, I'm just trying to think, they had this, for 50 cents you can get a milkshake all summer long, and but I found how many calories there are. I don't want to do that anymore, and
Terrible.
So I think we're all struggling to be skinnier and healthier. So here's a good way of being healthier. So I've been sold on soup for a long time. It's one of my favorite soups. I like in the fridge. I have some nice spinach and ginger soup. Gonna have a little bit later. And what I do at the end is I take like Chad is like I got this bag of spinach. I'll put some spinach into it, and I'll add extra water to it and I'll just eat that. I thank you for those tips at nighttime because I'm good for a while. Then I have that craving for sweet, so I'm gonna I reach for frozen berries. I sew my mouth. I pull out teats. And some nights I make it, some nights I don't. But I'm not getting mad at myself. I'm just sort of trying this different thing. And this is really a really neat approach. I think replacing a meal or two with either a smoothie or a soup makes so much sense, especially in the cold winter time right now. So and batch cooking and how to keep the price down. So I think you really highlighted. So the science says this is that the more overweight you are, the more inflammation you have. So more likely you're going to have heart disease, cancer, infections, and you don't feel good. And so if your body's always in a pro-inflammatory or war going on inside, you're not going to feel good. So I'm going to learn to relax and exercise. And one of the things that what people are going to do in the wintertime, so I'm going to do the stairs tonight, and I'm actually going to go this time. I'm going to try to play tennis, go bike riding, and for the winter time, I got one of these big fat tire bikes. I don't know how to put it together yet, but Mike's going to come over and we're going to put that together, and we're going to share some instead of beer, we're going to share some soup. So I'm happy with that, and you guys made this so wonderful. Are there any questions or any other comments people want to add to that? Any final thoughts from anybody? Any questions in the chat box at all? Stuart?
We have a few people just discussing a few things. One person said, my biggest issue is finding the energy and will to buy healthy things. And then they followed up by saying, can water or a specific kind of food help with whenever you're feeling like you have some like gas in your chest that sometimes feels like you're having a heart attack?
Yeah. You know, one of the things that what I've done differently is that water makes such a difference. I used to drink a lot of diet pop. I try to avoid that because it's sweet, and the question, does it make you lose weight? It's not clear, but water is definitely a great beverage. In France, you can get water everywhere. The city pipes in water, and even carbonated water. So I love carbonated water at times too as well. So yeah, is that indigestion and heart pain can be sometimes confusing. So I always think about discomfort that comes on with activity is heart related. Discomfort that comes on after eating with an acidy taste and gets better with a burp is usually gas and indigestion. So you have to sort of try to figure that out. And if you're not sure, come talk to me. We'll try to figure that out together because sometimes it can be confusing. Yeah, finding the will. I think the power of a group and working with others makes it so much better. I need support. I need help, and it's always a constant process. And this makes so much sense. I love ginger. One of the things is I live on a farm, and one of the things I got this year off my own land is I got these bags of just soybeans. And so the other day I basically put them in a pot, let them soak, and then cooked them. And I remember our farmer said she tends to burn them. I burned them just right, just a little bit of burnt on it was just perfect amount. And I had those beans that I kept all week and things I need. I have enough soybeans to last me a while now, and I still love that pea soup. I still love putting in all the vegetables in the world, and it's wonderful. And I think, you know, that smell of soup on the stove is such a nice thing. I'll still work on my cravings. I still won't be perfect, but soup makes a difference. I haven't embraced smoothies as much as other people have, and I think I'll explore that a little bit. Other people like smoothies. I like soup, and I got to make sure I don't make it too sweet because I love sugar, and I got to be careful about that. Mm-hmm. Any of the presenters have any other final thoughts at all? So why don't we just go around, Denisha, and so Steffi, give me a couple pearls. Everybody give a couple pearls. Everybody go around and say, here's a message I want you to think or consider.
Okay, well, I think everyone should take note of the study so that we showed. I think if anyone struggles with weight loss, water is a great strategy. Just having 2 glasses of water before you eat your meal, that's filling your stomach up. Also, that's going to help you with a lot of things. And everyone's always dehydrated in general, so I think we could all afford to drink more water. I know that's something I struggle with because I don't really like drinking water, but I need to force myself to drink it more. And another thing I would say is having soup with each meal. What might be a great strategy? I think I'm definitely going to try out Chad's recipe and see how that goes. And also start making more smoothies.
Nice.
My main takeaway would probably be that point that Dr. Curnew has brought up again and again, which is that inflammation can be very dangerous for your body, can cause a lot of diseases, and that study that we mentioned earlier about how exercise can really have a positive effect on reducing inflammation independent of weight loss. So if you're a person who's really struggling with losing weight, you've tried a lot of times and not been successful, exercise without losing weight is still good and can still help your health.
Nice.
I just want to add on to what Steffi said about drinking water. It's really important, just like for your health, but it also really helps in weight loss. And I think that the food tracker apps that were mentioned today are also really helpful in just managing your calories, what you're eating, and just taking a look maybe like after a week and see how your diet is, and maybe you can take away some things and notice general trends in your diet so that you can be healthier in the future.
Yeah, for me the biggest takeaway is just water. Aside from like weight loss, numerous benefits, right? Helps with the filtration system, helps with your skin, lighter skin. Actually, once we started working on this presentation, I've kind of made it a goal to drink a gallon of water a day. So for me, that's just filling up my Brita water, my Brita filter, first thing in the morning, and just aiming to finish it by before I go to bed at night. Some days it's harder to drink a lot of water because it feels like you're just forcing it down. But other days, it just comes naturally with a lot of exercise.
I really like Dr. Curnew's point about like doing things in groups and communities to keep each other going. Because like I know it's really hard to buy things that are healthy at the grocery store when there's like chips right next to whatever. So like one thing that I thought about was when he made that point was like the apps that we talked about. They were more like a lot of them are less just like tracking apps and more like a whole social media platform. So there's like, if you make an account, there's these things that people post in like status updates, and people make friends on there, follow each other, and you can maybe like post a photo of your grocery store haul and be like, this is what I've got today. Like it was, you know, it's healthy, and people can like be like, wow, is there like any deals going on? I really like the vegetable you got. This is how I cook it. You know, like I think it's a really wholesome thing to like join, and don't forget there's a lot of resources out there, that a lot of like-minded people who struggle with the same things that you can connect with. Yeah.
Chad, do you have any final words of wisdom?
No, it was a very good seminar. What sort of caught me was that again, because I'm always worried about inflammation when I'm taking in, but the exercise, I didn't realize that the resistance training and the exercise, even if you're not burning enough calories to lose weight, but at least that it helps with the inflammation. So I learned something new today.
So one final thing about you need to caloric restrict to lose weight, and you need to exercise for maintenance. And basically one of the things that many of us do is that we concentrate on the weight loss phase, and you showed in the Optifast phase there's a maintenance phase. So right now I'm in my maintenance phase right now, and it takes a lot of effort, because most of us will regain weight over time. That's sort of a natural part of them. That's okay. It goes up and down. So I'll say that to lose weight, you really have to caloric restrict. To maintain and prevent relapse, you need to exercise more. So I think they're both complementary, but they're both so important. So the person who says to me is like, I'm a meat and potatoes person, I think it's going to be hard to lose weight. The person who says, I hate exercise, I won't exercise, I can't exercise, the chance of success long term is almost nil. 98% of people who don't exercise will regain the weight by a year. So you need to combine both. And there's so much good food out there. And you just showed us some wonderful opportunities, everybody. So this is definitely another home run, and I'm going to have some soup afterwards. And thank you so much for sharing that. Stuart, you get the final word.
Yeah, well, before I get into my thoughts, we have a few questions that I think are good for Chad and anyone else to answer. Someone was asking, instead of making a soup, could you make a stir fry with these ingredients, and what kind of oil would be best to use in a stir fry?
Well, I guess a stir fry can be replaced with a soup, but again, the part of the soup is that you're getting your fluids in and it's making you feel fuller. So soups are really important, but you could have your soup first and then go to your stir fry. With regards to the oils, I do use different kinds of oils myself. I change it up a bit. So stir fries work best with high burn ratio type of high heat ratio where it doesn't smoke. So you're using oils. For example, I use avocado oil, which has got high heat before it starts to smoke, and also sesame seed oil, and then your olive oil. You can't really use extra virgin olive oil when you're doing a stir fry because the burn rate.
So I'm going to put a plea is that the best oil is no oil. Is that the principle is density of food, and unfortunately, if you remember go back on the webinar where you saw that one about the stomach, you put a little bit of oil in your stomach, you don't feel full, you're going to eat too much. So the whole principle about this is that oils, I'm trying to eat real whole food, non-processed, and basically oil is processed, so it's really a bad choice. We learned that sugar is bad and extra oil is bad as well. So eat the food instead of get avocado oil. Have a little bit of avocados instead of olive oil. Have a little bit of olive. But to me is that I'm really working hard at keeping the calories down, and most of us eat way too many calories. So my plea is not to use any oil for most of us, and that's. And I replaced my salads with balsamic vinegar. So balsamic vinegar is only about 30 calories in a teaspoon. Where you take a tablespoon or two of olive oil, that's 110 calories. I don't need those calories. And then Stephanie shows us that a milkshake can be close to 1,000 calories. A double at Tim Hortons is 250 calories. I want to go for a double without the doubles. Think about it, everybody. Think about the calories.
Mm-hmm. Another question we had was, does pureeing vegetables for a soup cause the vegetables to lose any of the nutritional value?
If that.
So my take on vegetables is that the fresher the vegetables, they're best when they're raw and they're non-cooked. And so, but is that you have to make it flavorful to yourself. So when Chad says he doesn't really cook his vegetables too much, I think the more you cook them, the more you lose the natural antioxidants. And so microwaving is a little bit better. Having it fresh is great. So it's best off the vine, to be honest with you. But we have to we live so freezing is actually important too as well. And so what I'm trying to do is try to cook less, more to raw state, but make it appetizing a bit. I don't think pureeing it is going to make a difference. It's the cooking it that's the most important thing. What do you think, Chad?
Yes, I agree. I don't overcook any of my vegetables, and the rawer you can have it or less been cooked, the better. And going back on that oil thing, if I could backtrack, when we were talking about the stir fry, although I use those oils, I do very rarely use them. It's so easy to fry up your stir fries. You just start it off with a little bit of water and go to town because you're only cooking it for such a period of time. So I'm 100% on board with you there. The less oils, which is processed, the better for your body.
So some of the things I think about is sweetness. So I try not to add sugar. And saltiness, I try to avoid salt, and I try not to add oils. And so I'm trying to use real wholesome food, least amount of cooking. But in this volumetric principle, again, 2 glasses of water with every meal is a wonderful thing. Having a jug, like you said, of 2 liters and a jug that you're going to drink throughout the day, that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. What other questions you got there, Stuart? Great questions.
Yeah, last question is almond milk an okay alternative to skim milk to use in your smoothies?
Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, I can jump in on that.
Yeah, oh good.
I just want to say I think almond milk is an excellent alternative. When I was looking around for recipes for smoothies, a lot of them actually recommended to use plant-based milks instead. Because they are often healthier, lower calorie, and a lot of the plant-based milks are fortified with the necessary vitamins and calcium to kind of make them nutritionally as beneficial as milk, and even more beneficial because they're plant-based. So my perspective is that plant-based milks are a great alternative to skim milk.
And I tend to agree with you, Shannon, because I think is that probably you're better off with a plant-based milk. It's less calories. It's probably healthier for you, less processing. Probably the richest flavor for everybody's personal. Oat milk is nice, and it's always nice. You don't add the sugars to it, so it's what you add to this as well. So I think just try different things. So remember that a glass of skim milk is about 90 calories. A glass of regular milk is 160 calories. A glass of oat milk is probably about 40 calories, depending, and if you add sugar to that or sweeten, it can be 90 calories and go up and up and up as well. So pay attention to the calories, and of course, taste is important, which you like to do as well. So yeah, I think good thoughts. Any other thoughts from anybody?
I just like to vouch for oat milk. I think it's my favorite plant-based milk, and I don't know if my tongue's broken, but it kind of tastes similar to cow's milk, so it is like my favorite alternative.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I think people asked some great questions, and if you have any questions, you can always email us at drcurnew232@gmail.com. Call the clinic, next discussion with anybody. And again, is go back and look at this presentation, go back and forth a little bit. That recipe is fantastic. Stuart has really done a great job at reorganizing YouTube and making it that you can find things better. If you ever walk into my office, you see things all over the place. Stuart organizes things and things of that nature, so that's great. And I like this idea of team approaches. And this was you guys have done a wonderful job. You also kept us on time for a change, no thanks to me. So this gives us more opportunity to have some, I'm going to have some oat milk tonight. I'm going to have, I have this ginger-based soup tonight. I'm going to put an extra little bit of water to it. I have a whole bag of spinach to add to that. And I'm going to go do some stairs in about 20 minutes from now. And I want to thank the team for a wonderful presentation. And I'm going to replace more meals with soup and smoothies. And great choices here. Stuart, why don't you just wrap things up for us?
Sure. No thanks to me. I wanted to just give a huge shout out to all the volunteers who were presenting today. I had no part in this, so they all did a fantastic job leading this workshop, and I learned a lot. I had no idea about how beneficial resistance exercises could be for inflammation. But on that note, I'm also going to link the video we made recently about staying active indoors. We did a great video fairly recently on adapted exercises that you can do now that winter's coming, which you can do indoors. You could also do it outdoors as well. There's some great resources, great apps, so you can definitely check that out. The video will be linked at the end and also in the description. And one thing that I just thought was really interesting was that, we talked about, Alan talked a lot about the benefits, the financial benefits of eating healthy. One thing that I do know is that you can think you're eating healthy, but it's always best to try to make things yourself if you can. Just because I was honestly watching a documentary recently, it was just on smoothies. I don't know why I was watching that, maybe just in preparation for today, but they were talking about how they were coming up at this franchisee place with these clean smoothies. So they wanted to make these healthy smoothies, and I thought the appeal with smoothies was that they are healthy. So I guess before there was a lot of sugars, there was a lot of sweets, a lot of calories in these smoothies, and they were trying to make them healthier. So you can have the right intentions, but you might miss the mark when it comes to buying things that are store-bought. Buying pre-made smoothies, buying pre-made soups. It might have more sugar or more salt than you realize. So just being able to check that and make sure that you are consuming what you think you're consuming is important. And Chad put up some great recipes there. I'm going to look back at them. Anybody who's watching can look back at them because this is all pre-recorded. They can take a picture and then they can try that recipe on their own. Not only is it probably healthier than a store-bought option, but in the long run, if you're making it in bulk, it can save you a lot of money. So a lot of good points made today, financially, health-wise. I learned a lot and I really enjoyed it. And we stayed on time, so win-win for everyone.
One final thought is that you mentioned it cost about an extra $550 to eat healthy. I'll remind you, if you lose 20 pounds and keep it off over 1 to 2 years, if you're a diabetic for 5 years or less, you can put diabetes into remission. And people are spending hundreds of dollars a month for diabetic medications. So I think $500 to save thousands of dollars and save lives are important too as well. So don't forget that. So you also feel better.
Right on.